Hello, everybody. My name is John Lux, and I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida. Welcome to another edition of Film Florida Friday. Film Florida Fridays are interactive conversations about current topics, initiatives, and relationship building in Florida's film, television, commercial, and digital media production industry. Film Florida Fridays are, of course, free, but if you like what you hear, please consider donating $20.21 for our 2021 fundraising campaign. The donation link will be posted in the chat box throughout the discussion, and you can always find that on our website as well. In a moment, today's guests will introduce themselves, then I'll ask some questions to get things going. During that time, we're going to ask that everybody keep their microphones on mute so we avoid background noise. After we've gotten through the initial questions, as usual, we'll open it up to the audience for questions and conversation. At that time, please use the hand raising function so we can call on you. We want this to be conversational and interactive, but we don't want everybody talking at the same time. We're also going to ask everybody to keep their questions and comments brief in the interest of time and out of fairness to others that want the opportunity to ask questions as well. And with that, I want to introduce our guests. We have two great Film Florida members with us today, Michael and Jennelle Jordan. So Jennelle, why don't you go ahead first and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jennelle Jordan. I am literally sitting right next to my husband here in the same room, so it's slightly awkward. You can see my hand. But I'm happy to be here. We've been longtime members of Film Florida, literally since we first moved here. It's a great organization, great networking. So I'm just happy and excited to be here.
Michael, how about you?
Hi, I'm Michael Jordan, Jennelle's husband. I'm a director of photography, and a specialist. I operate the Russian arm. I'm sure we'll get into that later. Yep, when Jennelle and I moved to Florida, we joined Film Florida right away, and have been part of this organization since we lived here. And it's a great organization, and we love being part of it.
Excellent. And of course, we appreciate that. So let's start at the very beginning with you guys. So Jennelle, what's your origin story? Where did you come from?
So I am originally from Pennsylvania. I say the Allentown region just because people sort of know that from the Billy Joel song, but I'm actually from a little old town called Schnecksville. Couldn't be more Pennsylvania Dutch than that. I grew up, we moved around a lot, but I kind of grew up in Schnecksville and went to college at East Stroudsburg University in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. So that was really great, learning experience. I majored in media communications and technology, graduated in 2003 with a bachelor's in that, and did a subsequent internship at MedStar Television, the producers of Forensic Files, and sort of jumped into work from there.
Michael, how about you?
I grew up in Pennsylvania in the Allentown area, actually from the city of Bethlehem, which was the origin of the Billy Joel song Allentown. Nothing rhymed with Bethlehem, so he changed it to Allentown, but it was about Bethlehem. And I I went to Penn State University, where I majored in film. I didn't go there originally with the intention of being a film major. I went there to be an architectural engineer, but things happened and that didn't work out. So I ended up joining the film program, and I loved it ever since. And I then, after college, was doing some production assistant work at this company called MedStar Television that produced the show Forensic Files, and worked my way up from a production assistant up to director. And that's where I met my wonderful wife, Jennelle.
Yeah, so tell us about that. Like, was it love at first sight? Did you guys hate each other at first? Was it a Hallmark movie? What was that like?
Well, I started as an intern, and then I was a PA, and Michael was already the director. So that was probably like, a little naughty at the time, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of funny. I always say Michael and I were meant to be, whether he, realizes it or not. But so I went to East Stroudsburg, where I went to school with like two of his best friends. We attended the same parties, like we have pictures together, but I never met Michael there. Michael actually roomed in college with one of my cousins, but I didn't know it. I never met him there. And it's small. I mean, it's Pennsylvania, so, whatever. But fate, I say, brought us together at MedStar, to work there. And I was lucky enough, I had two options for an internship. One was paid, but it was in Harrisburg, so that's a bit of a haul. But MedStar was right around the corner. It was unpaid. And I was like, yeah, let me take a chance here. So that's kind of the backstory on how we met.
Well, and Michael, at that company, you were credited with directing 275 episodes of the critically acclaimed television series Forensic Files. So talk about how you got involved in the series and what that was like.
So since the show was actually based in Allentown, Pennsylvania, while I was home one summer before my last semester at college, I was going around town handing out resumes to like the local news station. I was just handing out resumes looking for a summer job. And this MedStar Television contacted me and said, hey, come on in for an interview. I came in, they said, well, we need production assistants to help on the show Forensic Files. So my first job was as a production assistant, was working on one of the sets of the reenactments. And my first day, I had to clean up the fake blood off of a carpet, which I learned immediately that the fake blood does not come out of a carpet. So they ended up having to buy those people a whole new carpet in their basement. But I took that lesson from my first job and knew once I worked my way up through the ladder, I believe the next step was they liked me as a production assistant and they put me on as a camera production assistant. So I was helping the director of photography with, moving the cameras around and then helping him with lighting and learning from him. And once in a while, they wanted pickup shots. So they might have missed something or they had to add something into the script. And I was there and they trusted me to go out. They gave me an opportunity one time and this is a personal story that my mom's on here now, so she'll appreciate this. But the show was about somebody. They found a decapitated leg in a dumpster, and they asked if I could like film some. They said put some stuff underneath a blanket and shoot it. And I said, well, I have something better than that. My father was actually in Vietnam and lost his leg, so he had an extra his old artificial limb. So in my parents' garage, I set up a table, I put the leg down, covered it, and lit it. And I must have shot about an hour's worth of footage. Thank God it's on videotape and not on film. But I went back and I showed them this and they were like, well, we have plenty of footage here, but yeah, you did a great job. And when every time they needed something picked up, they kind of sent me out with a camera and I was able to do it. And from that, I kind of worked my way up where an opportunity was opened up where they needed a director to do the reenactments, and they gave me an opportunity. My first job was directing with a dog that got shot. So they say kids and animals are the toughest to direct, and my first one they had me with a dog, so that was fun. But it worked out, and a couple hundred episodes later, I kind of kept learning as I went along, and I really enjoyed it.
And Jennelle, the series Forensic Files was instrumental in bringing you and Michael together. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I started out as an intern there. I went on to PA, and then they just made up titles as they went. I think I was the assistant reenactment producer and, then assistant coordinating, whatever, it just, kept going. But I worked my way up to eventually producing reenactments alongside Mike, which is very interesting. Number one, to be dating someone that you're working with. And number two, to be a producer dating a director. So we tried very hard not to let, to let work be work and let home be home. But we also didn't tell anybody we were dating at the same time. I mean, I think it was a secret that everybody knew. But that was my first job. And it was really important to me to not, to not be seen as the girl who got the job just because she was dating the director. I really wanted to stand on my own 2 feet, which I think I did. So, it was interesting on set because producers, their job is to keep the train running on time and under budget and, adhere to a script and all that good stuff. And director's job is to make it, as cinematic and dramatic and, beautiful and great acting. And sometimes budget doesn't matter to them and time doesn't matter to them and all of that good stuff. So it was an interesting dynamic. But I do think it kind of helped us too with learning how to problem solve, in a relation, being in a relationship with somebody that you also work with. I don't know, I'd want to go back there now, but it was great at the time. I mean, we were very lucky. I mean, we learned a lot working on that series, both together and in general. Our executive producer, Paul Dowling, was tough. I mean, he still remains the toughest person I've ever worked for in my entire life, but the lessons learned along the way. And I mean, we worked on a television show for almost 10 years. That's unheard of now. We were given, honestly, like carte blanche to do what we wanted with the reenactments, to tell, these people, they died, so it's very important to tell the story and give their stories, life and not make it over sensationalized and just, tell the truth. And, we were fortunate that we were working for so long steadily and that we had the freedom that we had. We really were.
And what brought you guys to Florida then?
So we filmed a lot in Florida. We filmed in Pennsylvania, right? And we literally filmed, we were a 52 episode season. So our season was about a year. So do the math on that. We were nonstop. So Pennsylvania tends to get a little chilly in the wintertime. And, most bodies like to be buried, people like to take them outside and bury them or get rid of them or, things like that. So can't exactly film when we've got a foot of snow on the ground. So we would travel different places to film the reenactments. We went to Arizona, we went to California, we went to South Carolina, I think the one time, and we came to Florida and just absolutely loved it here. Loved the crew, loved the locations. I mean, Florida can double for literally anything. We filmed Lake Louisa for Wyoming or Montana, something like that, lakes, beach. We did the whole Megillah, the entire Florida, the state of Florida, we have used as various locations. And the crew, you can't beat them. You really can't. We established lifelong relationships with people, so much so like Danny Harvey came to our wedding. He and Dave Greer took a motorhome up from Florida to Pennsylvania to come to our wedding. Lucy Only I'll still talk to, every so often. And, just the people that we worked with when we were first here remain friends. And we've only, sort of built on the friendships since there. So that's really the primary reason was we filmed here for Forensic Files. We loved it. So when Forensic Files ended, I worked, a few years in Pennsylvania for an ad agency where I still have very good friends to this day. But it was an 1.5-hour trip. I didn't ever move to Harrisburg. So it was, move there or, move to Florida. And Michael was working more in Florida. So it really just made sense.
Michael, you and I have talked now that you guys are in Florida, fast forward a handful of years. You work all over the country. So talk about, one of the biggest challenges we have here, as we all know, is that we don't have a statewide incentive program. And that makes things a little more difficult for you doing high-end work like you do with the Russian Arm, which we'll talk specifically about. But talk about some of the challenges now of having to travel so much from your base.
Lately it's been tough getting a parking spot at the Orlando airport, but depends on what day you go. But honestly, I love living here and I don't want to live anywhere else. So it's not that difficult for me to get on an airplane to fly somewhere. Our airport is amazing. And there's plenty of options of flights to get me to a job. And I'm fortunate enough to work on productions where they fly me places. So it's, believe it or not, I mean, Atlanta's so busy, but I've probably only been in Atlanta a few times this year. I've been traveling out west. New Mexico is blowing up with production. I've been out there a lot. But whenever there's an opportunity to work in Florida, I'm always going to take it. Unfortunately, those opportunities aren't as much for me anyway. So, I mean, the challenge, I would love to work more I would love to sleep in my bed at night after we wrap. That's my favorite thing. And once in a while that happens. So, but other than that, I mean, it's just driving to the airport. I'm like a zombie. I mean, I have a routine. I know where I'm going. I park the same, I walk in, TSA pre-check, all that. It's like, I don't even think when I'm at the airport. And then my favorite part is when I'm coming home and I get on the tram and Mayor Buddy Dwyer just like welcomes me home, and I get like chills because it's like one of my favorite moments. I'm like, get in my car and I drive home. So that is, it is nice that somebody welcomes me home every time. I mean, it's a little sappy, but it is true.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jennelle, you've been involved with women in film and television in Florida for a number of years, and talk about your current role with WIFT and just WIFT in general. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I am currently the president of Women in Film and Television Florida. I served as the vice president for a couple of years under Nancy McBride, and I am now the president. Women in Film is another statewide film organization. The name is a little tricky because we do have both men and women members. Our goal is education, so we really focus on educating both, the current workforce and different opportunities from a networking and learning perspective. And we also, we raise money for scholarships. We have a film finishing fund and a short film finishing fund and a feature film finishing fund grants. And then high school scholarships throughout the state. Every one of our 7 branches has 2 $500 scholarships that they give out to high school students who are interested in pursuing film, television, and digital media in the future. So, it's all about education and just, bringing people together that are, interested in film, television, and digital media. It's been difficult in a pandemic, as you know, John, to retain membership and get people together when you're not really together. Everybody's, fairly virtual meetinged out, but we're trying our best. Being a president of a networking organization in a pandemic is challenging. But, I believe in the organization. It's another one I've belonged to since we moved here almost, I guess it's 7 years ago now. And I've, again, have met lifelong friends, through that organization and have gotten a lot of opportunities as well. So that's WIFT.
Excellent. And Michael, we've touched on the Russian arm a couple of times. So let's get in the weeds a little bit. You're a specialist. And first, for those that aren't familiar with what exactly the Russian arm is, explain that, but then also talk a little bit about your path to getting where your level of expertise with the equipment.
Okay, so the Russian arm it's a camera car. It's either the Russian arm itself is the crane on top of the camera car, and it has a gyro stabilized head. The real Russian arm is made by the company Filmotechnic, and that's the company that I work with. We have arms and cars all over the country, all over the world, really. But in the United States alone, we probably have about 13 cars with cranes on them. And we keep getting more and more, and we keep spreading them out throughout the country. So we do have we have one based in Florida, Atlanta, Detroit, Dallas, New Mexico, and LA. And what it is it's either on a Porsche Cayenne turbo or a Mercedes ML63 AMG, or a Ford Raptor, Toyota Tundra, just high-end, fast cars that could support this weight of this crane that weighs over 1,000 pounds on top of the car. And the crane's gyro stabilized, it swings 360 around the car. So you get all kinds of dynamic shots for stunts, for car commercials, anything really where you need a dynamic moving shot. And I started out, I got the opportunity to work on one of these. And I think it's because of my past experience working with camera and camera cars and moving cameras. I understand the dynamics of where the crane needs to be, where the camera needs to be. And just, I don't know, there's not a lot of people doing what we do. We don't have a lot of camera car drivers. We don't have a lot of definitely arm operators. And then we have worked with some of the best and most amazing camera operators that I could learn from some, because this tool is probably the top tool to use in this kind of field. So I am fortunate enough to work with some of the best directors of photography, the best directors in this field. So I learned from them, and learning from them helps me get better at my job.
And you know, the Russian arm obviously is a great piece of equipment, but like any other equipment, it's only as effective as the person who's actually utilizing it. So talk about some of the challenges of operating the system.
I mean, the challenges would be that, you know, there's this anywhere from a 15 to 25 foot stick or that swings all the way around a crane. You got to imagine if you're doing a stunt sequence on a tight city street, you got, you know, street poles, you have fire hydrants, you have other cars, and the name of the game there is don't hit anything. That's number one. Two is
right.
Get the shot. Don't miss the shot. Those are the two main challenges. And then the third is just, you know, be calm, collective, and, you know, trust your instincts. I think I don't get worked up over stuff. So if something's not looking right, I'll just correct it, you know, just without anyone knowing that there was ever an issue. But just the challenge would be just I don't know, it's tough to say because you can't really allow, I don't know. It's so, not a lot of people understand what we do, and it's hard to explain what the challenges are, you know.
Yeah.
Basically, the challenge is try not to hit anything.
Yeah.
I swing a stick around for a living. It's not really like I'm not, you know.
Well, but you and I have talked about, and I can see the frustration in your face when we have these conversations. Somebody, you know, puts a stick on a car, and all of a sudden, then they're advertising that they have a Russian arm. You know,
yeah.
talk about a little bit of that, of kind of the false advertisement that people do out there.
That is probably, you're right, John. That is the biggest challenge, is overcoming if there's anything we have in Florida, we have great crew, but we also have great sales, like people who can sell themselves who aren't as great. And that's the challenge we're having, because now more and more, it's so much easier to get equipment these days. I mean, when I started, I mean, you could not shoot on a video camera that looked like a film camera without getting a red, which was like, you know, that was like so huge when that came out. Now anybody could buy a DSLR camera and make it look like cinematic footage. So with technology getting better, everybody's buying some kind of, you could buy a gyro stabilizer for your camera phone. And now everyone's saying, oh, I could shoot car footage. I could do this with this gimbal, or, you know, this fake Russian arm. And that's the biggest challenge, is trying to overcome, oh, we're not using you guys because we found someone that's 3 times less than you guys. Well, okay, go for that, because I've already heard horror stories where they would use the discount piece of gear on their show and it never worked. So they lost an entire day, burned hundreds of thousands of dollars because they tried to save $2,000. So that's kind of the biggest challenge that we're facing today. and we don't have to like run around and sell ourselves, because, you know, at the end of the day, the work kind of speaks for itself. So we kind of let that happen.
Well, and I know you mentioned that the biggest thing that the Russian arm is for car chases and on street scenes, but you use it for a lot of other reasons within a production. Talk about some of those.
So it's such a useful tool that and this is where I go back to working with some of the best directors and DPs that know how to use this gear, because they will use it for everything. They'll use it as a jib, they'll use it as a dolly, they'll take it into a studio and use it, you know, as basically like a steady cam. If you know how to use the tool, you're going to use it to the most of its ability. So, I mean, when we were just up in Asheville for the show, I have to actually leave for right after this meeting, but I'm going back up there. Last week, we used it as basically a girl walking her bike, and we just got a close-up of her face. So that's, you know, there's all different ways to use it.
Excellent. Jennelle, let's talk about another longtime good friend of the program in ProductionHUB. So you, among everything else that you do, you have your ProductionHUB shirt on. So tell us about what you do there.
I am the production manager, the in-house production manager at ProductionHUB. That was another sort of fortuitous story. I, through Women in Film, met Kim Carroll Zink, and she, you know, was in Women in Film with me, and we worked on the events committee and things like that. And she worked for ProductionHUB, and I had just had I had a baby. I took some time off, and when it was, 7 or 8 months, I was ready to get back into it. I was freelancing for the most part up until then, and I wanted to find something a little bit more steady now that I had a little one. So met with Steve Rotz. We had lunch one day. We talked about the position that they actually had open at the time, which I was absolutely ready to take, and talked a little bit about my background. And they had been thinking more about doing production, management service. If anyone knows what ProductionHUB is, it's an online, marketing tool. So you can go there and advertise your services, or if you're a client, you can go and, find potential vendors to use for your production project. So it's a place to, find people and be found as well. It's a great tool. I've been on there, for years. I have always, gotten jobs from there. Mike's on there. But we sort of started this production management service based off of my background and helping clients in a more in-depth way. So we have, the request tool where people can go and say, hey, I need a camera operator for one day, in Orlando, and it, goes out en masse to people who have profiles on the site. Or, my team take those requests, one-to-one, where it's a client who they either, don't super understand the process of it, don't super understand the business. And we sort of help them a little bit further to find the best people, for what they're looking for. So a little bit more of a hand-holding service, if you will. But it's a great tool. It's we have people on there from, makeup artists to large, studios in LA. There are, it's visited by hundreds of thousands of people, each year. We've been around for 20 plus years. Steve Rotz and John Picorni are some of the best bosses I've ever had. If not the best boss I've ever had. They're great with my schedule. They, let things be flexible, and this production management service has really taken off. So it's been great.
And I mean, I even downplayed how much ProductionHUB has helped Film Florida through the years. I mean, with everything they have done. And we still continue to have that partnership where on our website, we still pull from ProductionHUB for classifieds and industry jobs here in Florida. So If you're looking for either of those things, go directly to Production Hub, or you can go to the bottom of our website, and that's pulled directly from the Production Hub website as well. So I just want to give everybody a heads up that's listening. We're about ready to open it up for the audience questions. So if you have any questions, comments, make sure you start using that hand raising function, and we'll call on people. But the last question I wanted to ask, and this is for both of you. So Jennelle, you go first. You know, you guys are all over the place. You do a lot of different things. And you have a terrific daughter that you mentioned. So talk about the balancing act between the career and parenting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, anybody who's a parent has done it. Obviously, it's a challenge, you know, sort of in general, being any parent, you know, with two working parents, or you know, for anybody that has a kid, it's just challenging in general. She's 4 too, so that's, you know, that's something. But we're lucky with the daughter that we have, and I don't know if it's, you know, if it was just how we've raised her, but she is so pliable. Like you know, we are different. You know, we don't shut off all the time. We don't have you know, a 9 to 5 and then we're done for the day. So, you know, we have to talk to her and explain, and she gets, you know, like, okay, mommy has to be on this, you know, Zoom at, you know, 8 o'clock at night because my client's in Malaysia, and, you know, that's just something that we do. Mike and I try really hard to make it a point to not be away, you know, for more than a certain amount of time, if we can possibly help it. You know, the longest we probably have been away from each other, and, you know, and her was, you know, this past Thanksgiving, he was sort of sequestered in New Mexico on a program where he had to, you know, he had to stay there, and that was over Thanksgiving. He had sushi for Thanksgiving, this poor guy. You know, so we try really hard to, you know, to prioritize work in that we're not, you know, away from each other or her for too long. But, you know, kids are so resilient, and I don't think she at all understands what it is that we do. But, you know, she says, have a good shoot, you know, whenever Mike leaves. And, you know, we try our best to be present, you know, so when we're able to, you know, be physically here, we try our best to sort of be present. So, you know, it's a challenge in general, but she's a great kid. She really, like, I mean, I'm biased, but.
Well, and Michael, talk about the support system that you guys have, because, you know, sometimes you both have to work at the same time and, you know, be away or have long hours.
Yeah. So when I'm at home, I try to help out as much as possible, because I know Jennelle, I mean, compared to what she does, my job is super easy. I mean, she is one of the hardest workers that I know in this production business. And I'm not saying it because she's right there. But she really does. I mean, when she's freelancing on jobs and doing Production Hub work and still doing with newsletters, I don't understand how she could juggle it. I could barely juggle one thing at a time. So when, you know, it's dinner time and we all sit down as a family and eat, well, you know, our daughter eats as slow as I do. So her and I we excuse mommy, and she goes into the office and she gets all of her work done while, you know, and then when she's done, she comes out, and then I'll have to take a call from the West Coast. So at 8 o'clock at night. So it's, you know, we kind of like know how to hand off. And she's right. Our daughter is now, as she's getting older, a little bit more, you know, self-sufficient. She could, you know, and we encourage her to do that, because she understands, like, hey, you know, and she's like, well, what does mommy do for work? And she goes, like, she'll sit there and do that. So she at least understands. And if we're on a business call, either one of us, she's quiet. So, I mean, we are very fortunate that she kind of sees what we do, but we always make sure that when we're off that call, we are spending, you know, let's put our phones away, let's turn the computers off, let's sit down as a family. And same thing with dinner. We sit down and we eat as a family and talk about our days. Our daughter says, tell me about your day, mommy. Tell me about your day, daddy. So it's cute, but it's important to, and this is for everybody, whether it's just family or work, isn't everything. So you have to take the time to appreciate life.
That's
And our
excellent.
families are, we are very fortunate, our families as well. So, Mike's mom will be down with us in, in December, and, we'll get to spend a lot of time with her. And, my parents they live here now. They were snowbirds, but they live here now. So we have a great system at our, great daycare for Evie to go to. And, they babysit for us sometimes. So it is a village, if you will.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Questions from the audience. Does anybody have anything they want to chime in with to Michael or Jennelle? Go ahead and use the hand raising function, and I'll call on you. All right.
I'm sure. Do you see me?
Who is this?
This is Lucy. And I just wanted to tell Michael and Jennelle, Leah, and Maya still love you, even though we haven't seen you in 5 years. And my girls use the episodes in their resume for work. And they're not actresses. They're waitresses and secretaries and things of that nature. So when I told them I was going to watch your Zoom meeting, they said to send their love.
That's so cute. Yeah, Lucy was one of the first people that we met here. She was our location scout for Forensic Files. Love her dearly. Her girls, when they were small, were actresses on Forensic Files. They were great. So, and now they're, like what, 18, 20?
No,
crazy.
26, 25. And Maya has made me a grandma. And Heidi is only 1 year younger than Evie. So time flies.
Yeah, how about it?
Excellent. Thank you, Lucy. Christy, I am going to add your spotlight. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, great. Hi, Michael and Jennelle. Was wondering if you guys have like insider tricks of the trade when it comes to working with different clients all the time. How do you have certain rules that you follow to establish legitimacy or trust with those people up front, whether it's taking payment up front or doing contracts up front? Are there certain red flags that you avoid for somebody that reaches out to you, whether it's on a gig for the Russian arm or whether it's something with ProductionHUB and wanting a listing? Are there certain legitimacy standards that you guys follow for new people that you're working with?
Okay. If they start the conversation with, I have a great idea for a reality TV show, or we're shooting a music video, that's my red flag right there. But other than that, when it comes to what I do, I mean, I'm listed on ProductionHUB. I get a lot of weird requests, or someone saying, hey, I have this idea for a show, or I have a script. I mean, you got to kind of look out for those, but sometimes I get a legit call, and the way that they just start the conversation on the phone, it's like, I'm about to hang up. But you ask the right questions. Always make sure. The first thing I would say is, okay, and we need insurance. So do you have that? And if they're like, yes, then okay, well, that's at least good. They know they need insurance. They know they need permits. If they're like, oh, I need permit for that, then they're not really legit. Other than that, I'm sure Jennelle deals with it a lot more than I do, but those are my red flags. Now,
music videos and reality shows can be fine. They pay too. Contracts and insurance are my top must-haves. So, it seems tedious, but some sort of a scope of work, a signed scope of work is very important, or some sort of deal memo, or just anything in the line of, here's exactly what I need from you, and here's exactly what I expect out of you, and here's how many days, here are the deliverables, here's your pay, written down somewhere, ideally in a contract or at least in an email, so you've got a paper trail. I'm all about that. So, it seems tedious, but I think it's so important. And sometimes people just don't know. They just, they don't know. They might have the funds. They might have, a real solid, rock solid, production idea and game plan. But the lawyer, contract end of it doesn't compute. You know, especially for someone who's very creative. I mean, you can be both brains, but sometimes it's just difficult. But so an entertainment attorney is absolutely invaluable, as well as an accountant, you know, a production accountant of some sort, to make sure everything's on the up and up as far as, you know, taxes and payments and all of that good stuff, and insurance. You know, these are all the very most boring things you could possibly deal with, but so important for, you know, before you even get in, you know, before you even step foot on your location. All those things have to be in order.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Christy. I'm going to remove that spotlight. Kimberly, we're going to pull you out here and go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name's Kim. I'm one of the friends that Michael and Jennelle left behind in Pennsylvania. I'm so proud of both of you. So my question is for Jennelle, and I know you've done a lot to advance women in film. So my question is, what advice would you give to women specifically that are trying to get into your industry?
Great question, Kim.
That's a great question. Yes, Kim. Kim is amazing, and I miss her dearly. So that's a great question. I mean, you know, I am woman, hear me roar. I mean, my mom taught me, you know, anything that a man can do, a woman can do as well. You know, so, you know, be a director if you want to be a director, be a DP, be a grip, be a gaffer. You know, there's no limitation, you know, in this industry that says you've got to be a production manager or you've got to be a production coordinator. You know, I am, because I like it, because I'm very anal retentive and it suits me. But, you know, do whatever you want to do, and, you know, just learn. You know, people don't take the time, you know, a lot of people coming out of film school, oh, I'm going to be a director, I'm going to be a DP. Well, there are a lot of invaluable, you know, positions and roles, such as, you know, grips and gaffers and, you know, the below the line folks. Like, do the thing that makes you happy. Turn to your fellow, you know, women for support, and plenty of men out there are, you know, they're part of Women in Film, you know, as well for, you know, for help in, you know, advancing you, for, teaching you, you know, learning along the way. I started out as an intern and then a PA and worked my way up from there. So, you can do it. Just whatever you do it well, because you will be judged probably more than a man. You know, that's not fair and not great, but, you know, do it with passion, do it with purpose, and, you know, be the first one there, be the last one out. Prove them wrong, I guess, is maybe my best advice. I'm not sure.
All right, thanks, Kim. So I'm gonna remove that spotlight. Any other questions? Go ahead and raise your hand while we're waiting for any other questions from the audience. Michael, give us websites that we need to know for all the stuff that you have going on. Where can people learn more?
So Jennelle and I have our production company. It's mjjentertainment.com. So that's our production company. My website is mjordanpictures.com. So that's my freelance director, DP, Russian arm operator website. Then for the Russian arm, it's filmotechnicusa.com. You could see all the great equipment and gear that Filmotechnic provides and has all over the country. And then for Jennelle, her freelance website is JennelleJordan.com. That's her producer, production management freelance website. So yeah, we spend a lot of money on Wix.com every year. So I could ask our accountant what our advertising budget is.
And then Jennelle, tell us the websites for WIFT and ProductionHUB.
Yes, so ProductionHUB.com, all one word, ProductionHUB.com, and then it's womeninfilmfl.org. Okay, so Violet, I saw your comment. I wasn't writing all of those down, but here's if you missed any of those websites,
This video is going to be published next week on our social media pages. You can scroll to about 45 minutes into it, and you'll get all these websites. Sorry, I wasn't typing. I don't type that fast. So, all right, Sabine, we're going to highlight you and bring you down. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. I just have a question for Jennelle. Can you tell me a little bit about women in film and television and how active that is in Florida?
Yeah, so it is an organization that has been around for quite some time. We have 7 branches throughout the state. We are headquartered in Orlando, but we have branches in Melbourne, Daytona Beach, Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, Clearwater, and South Florida. We had at one point in time, close to 400 members throughout the state. We lost quite a few during the pandemic. Something that is, sort of a networking and bonus, thing that you're paying for, sort of gets, fallen by the wayside, unfortunately. But we are still, we're still quite strong, and we see people coming back every day, which is very encouraging. We offer, networking and educational opportunities for every one of our branches. And if you're a member of WIFT in general, you're a member of all those branches, and then you have access to any of the opportunities. So if South Florida has, a tour of a studio as an educational event down there, then, that's open to anybody throughout the entire state, or Orlando, if we're over at Universal doing an event, so on and so forth. So we have, these educational events. We have networking events every week called WIFT Wednesday. We are, we're still doing some virtual events, and we also have scholarships that we give out every year. Each branch has a scholarship, and then we also have our film finishing fund grants, 2 of those. And it's open to men and women, just because it says women in film. And our headquarters, our chapter, I should say, is Florida. And, we have access to all of WIFT US. So every state or major metropolitan area has a WIFT for the most part. So, we reciprocate with them as far as their opportunities and their events as well. So, if WIFT LA is having an event, we can attend those things. And, we have discounts through them, like an IMDb Pro discount and writer store discounts and, things like that.
And WIFT and Film Florida have a really great partnership. And actually, Jennelle is on the board of Film Florida as the representative of women in film and television. So, we work really well synergistically to share things and work together. We promote their events, they promote our events, those type of things. And so it's a really great partnership, because we do some similar things, but WIFT focuses a lot on the educational side of things for the industry, whereas Film Florida is a little bit more marketing and professional development and networking that way. So, and then obviously our advocating stuff as well. So okay, so Steph, I'm going to pull you down. Go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, I'm another one of the friends that Jennelle and Michael left in Pennsylvania, but I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in a couple weeks. My question is probably more for Jennelle, but just in terms of advice for those looking to make that transition from corporate full-time to freelance, putting the pieces together, and that kind of balance across the board.
It's a really great question. That was terrifying to me. I had worked, for Forensic Files. That was a full-time opportunity, dental, 401k. I mean, all that real sexy stuff when you're an adult. And then the same with the ad agency that I work for, JPL. It was terrifying. I'm not going to lie. My advice would be to market, and network. So get yourself a website, get yourself, on all of now social media channels. That wasn't really back then. But, as many as possible, and network with people, be a part of a Women in Film, be a part of a Film Florida, go to the events, when they actually, when you're actually able to physically, see people. reach out. I mean, I can't tell you how many people that have just cold emailed me, which, you know, for better or for worse, you email 50 people and you might get 5 responses. But that's 5 responses that you wouldn't have gotten. So, you know, just, you got to put yourself out there and, you know, be a part of Production Hub. We have consistently every day new jobs that come in, new requests for work, you know, that come in, gig leads, you know, job leads, and so on and so forth. You know, be a part of something like that so that you are, you know, constantly, you have to be a doer. You have to be a goer. You know, you can't sit back and let opportunities come to you. You really have to put yourself out there, which can be a little scary, but you have to.
All right, Steph, thank you very much. Any other questions for Michael or Jennelle? Going once, going up. Okay, Robert. Oh, just got in under the wire. All right, I'm going to add your spotlight and go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, we can't hear you, Robert. It says you're unmuted, but we still got nothing.
Better? Yeah.
Add it. There you go.
That's why I'm the camera guy. I'm not the audio guy. So Jennelle, when you get a call from someone and they're thinking about bringing their project or their production to Florida, what do you tell them? I mean, you know, well, we're thinking about maybe shooting in Atlanta, or we're going to shoot in Wilmington, or
no.
What do you tell them?
I tell them, no, you shoot in Florida. No, I mean, you know, sometimes I whip out the personal stories, you know, with forensic files in my experience. You know, I don't, I'm part of Film Florida, and I'm absolutely supportive of all the legislative efforts. You know, I don't super, you know, get into that because I know John's got it, you know, handled in that regard. But, you know, with or without a film incentive, we have the best crew. I will put them up against any LA crew out there. We have the best locations, you know, the best film commissioners that will literally bend over backwards. And from a dollars and cents perspective, an incentive would be great. I mean, we get the bigger things, we would do the bigger things. But it, you know, from a dollars and cents perspective, to shoot in Florida, it's going to be less expensive for the most part. It really is. You know, I remember this really great, you know, thing from Sheena from years ago where, you know, Paper Towns, you know, they did a little bit, you know, here in Florida, and then, you know, went up to, I think it was either North or South Carolina to do the rest of it. And like their Spanish Moss budget was like astronomical. So, you know, just from a dollars and cents perspective, from a crew perspective, you will find no better place to film. And we still get, you know, commercials because it's cold in Pennsylvania and people will come down here. You know, commercials, you know, aren't always super focused on a film incentive anyway. So, you know, that's really great. And then we have the really great tax, I'm going to say the wrong thing, sales tax
exemption
program.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, when I tell a client, you know, that comes in from out of state that, you know, we're helping them, you know, save on the sales tax by filming here. I mean, they're like that in itself is great to them. And people have come back, you know, specifically for that. So, you know, locations, crew, you know, what you get from an ROI standpoint by filming in Florida, not just because I live here, but I mean, it just, you know, I sing the praises all the time.
Well said, Jennelle. Well said. Thank you for the question, Robert. Okay, anybody else have anything before we wrap things up? Okay, so Michael and Jennelle, I sincerely thank you for taking the time. I can obviously thank you for your continued support of Film Florida. You guys are some of the best mouthpieces we have for the organization, and so we really appreciate it. That's going to do it for another edition of Film Florida Friday. We're going to be back next month, Friday, November 19th. As I've been putting in the chat box, we have another edition. And this time we're going to focus on film and production education in Florida. We have some great guests lined up, both students and educators. So be looking out for the registration link for that on social media and in email blast. I want to thank all of our Film Florida members, not just Michael and Jennelle. Without the support of the members, Film Florida Fridays don't exist. And so if you're not a member of Film Florida, we hope you'll consider joining at filmflorida.org. If I mentioned the donations, a couple people have made some donations during this event, so we really appreciate that. You can look in the chat box for our website or the donation link. Keep up with everything we're doing on our social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And make sure you are listening to the Film Florida podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and the iHeartRadio app. A new episode is going to be released every other week now through Memorial Day. Thanks for being here, and stay safe and healthy, everybody.